Nobody. Nobody. Not one of you was told the missing lesson at the beginning. The very moment you turned seek into a goal, you placed it into tomorrow, and in that act, you lost it. Seek first the kingdom was handed to you like an errand list, like a ladder to climb, like a trophy to be won after practice and payment. And so you practiced and you paid and you planned, and every plan said later. Every prayer made on the premise of when pinned the kingdom to a calendar, and the calendar is not God. Now, let us be very clear, because the soul cannot afford another season of confusion. If the kingdom is something to get, it is not here, and if it is not here, it is not the kingdom. Do you see the treachery hidden in innocent words? I will get there. I am working toward it. One day I shall have enough understanding. The instant the mind adds delay, the mind has denied presence. The instant you accept a path measured by miles, you have stepped off the holy ground beneath your feet. Now then, my kingdom is not of this world. Do not hear those words with the ear that collected sermons and exchanged them for comfort. That ear cannot hear, the physical ear takes in syllables. The kingdom is silence before syllables. What I am saying must be discerned between the lines, behind the sound, in the still place that is neither before nor after. You and I are not having an argument. We are not adding a new doctrine to your shelf. We are not pleading with a God somewhere to notice us. We are exposing the mistake of time in spiritual things. You were trained by this world to seek as the world seeks. Aim, effort, improve, acquire, arrive. And you carried that method into holy ground. That is the mischief. That is the subtle profanity. To seek the kingdom with a worldly method is to double lock the door you are standing in. Because the kingdom is not a better human scene, not a reformed tomorrow with cleaner dresses and healthier bodies and bank accounts that smile. My kingdom is not of this world, not an improved this world, not even a perfect this world. It is another order of being entirely, entered not by mileage, but by awareness. Now then, if you made it a future, you traded grace for hope. Hope is time's perfume. It smells sweet and it evaporates. Grace is. It does not travel. It does not consent to be scheduled. The moment you whisper someday about God, you have placed God outside of God. Do not be offended. Be awakened. I know the handwriting of the old habit. I know the pain that taught it. We were all schooled in cause and effect, in earning and deserving, in proving ourselves to somebody we cannot name. But nobody in this room is going to the kingdom by supplementing that school with a scripture. Nobody. Hear me. The problem is not your lack of sincerity. It is your method. The human method of seeking produces distance. The spiritual word seek does not mean go and get. It means turn and see. It does not announce a race. It announces a revelation. Seek first is not a schedule item at 7 in the morning before coffee. Seek first is the cessation of bargaining, the end of leverage, the falling away of tomorrow. And in that empty split of a second, the kingdom is not fetched. It is obvious. We shall speak of that split second. Not yet. For now, register the correction. This is why some of you grew tired. Years of reading, years of meetings, years of noble effort, and still the ache for arrival. You did not fail. You were not refused. You were striving in a realm where striving cannot reach. How could you improve your way into what already is? How could you walk toward a presence that fills the very place from which you take your next step? Can you walk to the air? Can you earn the sunrise? And if you promise the air, you will breathe it tomorrow. Have you not suffocated now? My friends, the kingdom is not postponed without being denied. Now, let the room accept this as law. We are not moving God. We are not preparing God. We are not promising God what we will be if God will be what we want. No, We are submitting our method to judgment. The kingdom is realized, not achieved. It is discerned, not constructed. And the instrument of discernment is not the ear that takes notes, nor the tongue that recites truths. It is consciousness laid bare of its clocks, without the personal eye pushing, pleading, planning. That is the point at which the words cease being words, and the word announces itself from within. So take your hands off tomorrow in this moment. Don't tidy your life first. Don't fix the scene so you can feel spiritual. That is still the old way, sneaking in a halo. Right here, without one more improvement, admit you cannot get there because there is no there in God. Admit you have put the kingdom into the future and by that act concealed it from yourself. Admit it, and the admission will tear the veil. And if you say, "But how?" I answer, not with how, with now. My kingdom is not of this world. Let that sentence fall beneath your hearing, into the place where time cannot follow, and stay there long enough to know the difference between hoping and being. Now then, we must plant both feet in a foundation that will not give way under the weight of your days. Two realms, not one realm polished up, not one realm improved, reformed, dressed in scripture. My kingdom is not of this world. It isn't even an improved this world. It isn't even a perfect this world. Hear it past the ear. The ear will argue, the ear will edit, the ear will make a theology. But the kingdom is not in the ear. The kingdom is in the is. This world, let us name it plainly, runs on time, on fear, on cause and effect. Yesterday breeding today, today breeding tomorrow. Reward and punishment, loss and gain, up and down as if on a pulley. You labor, you plan, you ensure, you worry to keep the machinery moving another hour. And if you bring that machinery into a church, into a prayer, into a meditation, it is still the same machinery grinding under a stained glass skylight. The noise is softer perhaps, but it is the same. You ask God to grease the gears. You ask God to speed the wheels. You ask God to pause the clock until you catch up. All of that is time. All of that is fear. All of that is effect seeking a better cause. And all of that is not the kingdom. In the kingdom there is no clock. There is no law of cause and effect binding life to a sequence, promising you a result if only you can calculate the formula. There is only grace. There is only is. There is an order, yes, but not an order that can be plotted or bargained with. An order that governs as light governs, as truth governs, not by reward, not by penalty, but by its own being. Where grace is felt, government is present. Guidance is not a plan, it is a flow. Supply is not a budget, it is a sufficiency that appears as needed without a ledger's consent. Health is not the mechanical correction of parts, it is life revealing itself as wholeness without the body's permission. That is another realm, not a cleaned-up theater of the human. Another theater altogether, behind the curtain of the senses. Now take this step with me. If you imagine a perfect tomorrow, perfect health, perfect companionship, perfect employment, perfect weather, and then you ask God to escort you there, you are still in this world. Perfection in time is still time. It is perishable. It is vulnerable to the very premise upon which you have built it. It has a beginning, and so it must have an end. It has conditions, and so it must be conditioned by them. And because it is perfect by arrangement, it can be ruined by rearrangement. What kind of kingdom can be toppled by Tuesday? Not a kingdom at all. A private dream, perhaps a noble one, but still a dream. You have been tired because you were trying to drag spirit down into your dream. You brought your weights into prayer and asked spirit to spot you while you lifted. You hired God as a consultant to rescue your project. And spirit does not hire out. God does not take contracts in time. There is no God in the human scene as cause or effect. Difficult, offensive, let it sting. Let it shock you clean, because as long as you expect God to operate in the old equations, you will measure God by the stopwatch and call that faith. That is why the soul becomes weary, mind straining to do Spirit's work, lips repeating holy words while the heart clings to calendars. Now then, another word that must be placed beyond argument. Those who worship must worship in spirit and in truth. Not in human improvement, not in cleaner conditions, not in rehearsed optimism. Spirit must be met in its realm. Do you see the mercy of this? If we had to repair the human scene to find God, most of us would run out of years before we ran out of repairs. But no repair is prerequisite to the kingdom, none. We do not clean up this world to invite God into it. We rise out of the sense of it into the awareness of that which is already clean. Still remain in this world, yes. Still eat, still drive, still answer the bell, but not of it. Not governed by its laws, not victim to its threats, not seduced by its bribes. You have heard me say, and I say it again because the mind forgets by habit, try to live a minute from now, try to get into it. You cannot. It is vacuum, it is mirage. And yet most of your spirituality has been built on that mirage. A better minute, a holier hour, a reward next season. That is why even religion can become a tyrant. It puts holiness on layaway. It praises you for effort and pays you in hope. Hope is just time with perfume. Hope is this world's best suit. Grace is naked isness. Grace is now. When the Master stood before Pilate and said, "My kingdom is not of this world," he did not propose a moral upgrade to Rome. He dissolved the very premise of Romanism in consciousness. He refused the battlefield. He refused the throne, not as a tactic but as revelation. Another government is present, another sovereignty, another life that cannot be condemned, cannot be acquitted, cannot be crucified. It can only be witnessed or ignored, and the physical ear cannot hear that. The physical tongue cannot utter that. It must be discerned in the still place where time has no credential. Let us be ruthless with ourselves, kindly but without nonsense. Do you still believe that getting your life to behave is the same as entering the kingdom? Do you still bargain, if only this would change, I could be spiritual? That is the world selling you a counterfeit coin with two faces, fear on one side, desire on the other. Flip it as you will, it will still spend as time. The kingdom does not trade in that currency. The kingdom is wealth without coin, order without sequence, life without opposite. What then is our business? To know the difference, to refuse to confuse an improved scene with a changed realm. When supply comes as a check, give thanks, but do not worship the bank. When health dawns as appetite and strength, bless it, but do not define life as muscle. When reconciliation appears as a friend returning, rejoice, but do not build an altar to personalities. The added things come and go in this world's traffic. The government that adds them does not come and go. Anchor there. So then, if the kingdom is not out there, where is it? And how do we seek it without seeking in the old way? Not with travel, not with bargains, not by shampooing the human until it shines. A change of consciousness, that is the gate. A ceasing, not a surging. A lifting, not a dragging. We are not finished with this. No, we are only placing the feet on rock. Next, we will face the tyranny of tomorrow itself, and you will see why every step into past or future steps you out of grace. For now, accept the two realms. Live the difference. Stop hiring God for the human scene, and let grace govern you from the kingdom that is, and is, and is. Now then, we take up the tyrant that has whipped the saints and mocked the students. Time, not the clock on your wall, that is harmless enough. The inner worship of before and after, the bargaining with tomorrow, the nostalgia of yesterday. This is the doorway out of grace. The instant consciousness goes there, it steps out of the kingdom, because grace is only now, not yesterday, not tomorrow. Now. There is no kingdom yesterday. Do not try to rescue it from memory. Whatever you remember of spiritual sweetness yesterday is a photograph. It is not the light. It may warm you for a moment like a picture of a fire, but it will not heat the room. There is no kingdom tomorrow. Do not try to store it in hope. Whatever you hope for tomorrow is a contract with a phantom. It may comfort your anxiety like a bedtime story, but it will not feed the soul. The kingdom is, therefore it is now. It cannot be postponed without being denied. It cannot be recalled as a souvenir. It lives, and where life lives is now. Try the experiment that ends the argument. Try to live a minute from now, not plan it, not imagine it. Live it, you cannot. A minute from now is vacuum, no breath, no step, no here. Try to live a minute ago, not remember it. Live it again. You cannot. A minute ago is an imprint, a memory trace. No life is in it. You see then why grace is only now. Life is only now. Spirit is only now. My kingdom is not of this world, and this world is a world of time. Therefore, the minute you move into time, you have moved out of my kingdom. That is not a punishment. That is an isness. Nature will preach this for you if you will stop insisting on arguing. Whenever the rose blooms, it is now. Not because the gardener looked at his watch and permission was granted, but because life knows only its own season, and that season is always this moment. The tide turns now, the bird lifts from the limb now, the child laughs now. Nobody in this room can live a second ahead of breath, nobody. And yet look at the mind running to tomorrow as if tomorrow were food. It is hunger. It is the very feeling of separation, because it seeks life where life is not. Seek first the kingdom. Here first, not as sequence in your calendar, but as priority in your consciousness. Not 7 o'clock before 8 o'clock. Not prayer before coffee. First as in this before all thoughts of outcome. This before the mental movie. This before the ledger, this before any problem presents its evidence. First is not a time slot. First is the government that precedes all other governments by being the only real one. If you let the mind run into outcomes and then turn to the kingdom to bless them, you have already stepped out. You have placed grace under law. You have domesticated spirit to perform in your schedule. It will not, it cannot. Spirit is not of this world. Now then, see how cunning the tempter is. It will not come dressed as wickedness. It will come as piety. It will say, think of tomorrow so you can be responsible. Plan your good works. Arrange your holiness. And you, wanting to be noble, will bow to time in a religious outfit. Stop it. Responsibility is not foresight. Responsibility is fidelity to presence. The only way to be true to tomorrow is to be true to now. The only way the added things find their rightful appearing is when outcome does not lead consciousness by the nose. Take no thought for the morrow. That does not endorse carelessness. It condemns the idolatry of time. Fear is the taste in the mouth when consciousness has left the now. If there is fear in you, do not analyze your childhood. Do not audit your budget first. Look at the clock inside you. Are you out there? Tomorrow's bill, tomorrow's diagnosis, tomorrow's conversation. Then, of course, there is fear. You have stepped into a vacuum and asked it to hold you. It cannot. The fear is telling you, return. Not return to a better strategy. Return to presence. The moment you are here, which means without bargaining, without a to-do list for God, the fear eases because grace does not consult with fear. Grace governs. Grace is the government, and it does not need your forecast to be God. Let us tell the truth so we can stop being tired. All anxiety is tomorrow. All guilt is yesterday. Neither is now. Neither is the kingdom. When you feel guilt rise, you are living in a film strip of what is no longer. When you feel anxiety push, you are bowing to a film strip of what is not yet. Neither contains any life to bless you, heal you, guide you. The mind has taught you that memory will save you and projection will protect you. Neither has ever done so, not once. You learned a lesson from a punishment and called it redemption. You guessed an outcome and called it wisdom, and still the heart was hungry because it was eating time. Now, sit where you are and do nothing for a breath. Not even a holy thought. Not a better thought. Do you see how quickly the mind leaps forward to resume its negotiations? Catch it. The instant it runs, you have left. The instant you consent to be still without minutes, the climate changes. You are not yet healing the body, not yet solving the relationship, not yet balancing the checkbook. You are ceasing to pretend that minutes are God. That is seeking first, not as a technique, but as a refusal to be governed by a lie. Some of you will say, but I must plan. I have a family. I have work. Yes, you will still mark a date, still show up at an hour. But let this be understood. You can move a hand on a clock without giving your heart to time. You can write a meeting on a calendar and never once desert the kingdom to attend it. When the calendar is servant and not sovereign, the plan is an appearance under grace, not a substitute for grace. Then even your planning is quiet, simple, present. It does not strain, it does not hunt outcomes. It arranges what is given, and what is given comes from now. This rule is uncompromising and merciful. The minute you deviate into past or future, you are lost to the kingdom. Not lost to God, who cannot lose you, but lost in your awareness of what is already here. And the minute you return, one breath, one unclenching of the fist around tomorrow, you are found, not by geography, by recognition. The shepherd did not move, the sheep stopped running. Do not argue with this. Accept it as principle. Practice it as obedience. Then watch how often you catch yourself visiting a minute from now as if it were a country with bread. It is a desert. Come home. My kingdom is not of this world. Not even of this world's time about spiritual things. The mind would like a spiritual tomorrow, a perfect tomorrow. But even a perfect tomorrow is still tomorrow and therefore not the kingdom. When the rose blooms, it's now. When grace governs, it's now. When supply appears, it does so now. When guidance is known, it is known now. All that ever truly happens, happens in the only where there is presence. So our discipline is not to manufacture a spiritual future, but to stop leaving the present. Over and over, kindly and without nonsense. If the mind runs, we say, no, here. If the memory accuses, we say, no, here. If hope seduces, we say, no, here. It will seem severe at first. It is mercy. Because only here is God. Only here is rest. Only here is the government that adds what needs to be added without your bargaining. Seek first, now, before the mind runs to outcomes, and the running will cease because there is nowhere to go when you live where God is. Now then, if seek first is now, we must say with equal clarity what it is not. It is not a campaign. It is not a bargain. It is not a plan by which you secure God's cooperation for a better tomorrow. Seeking is not the religious version of ambition. It is not polishing the human personality until it shines bright enough to attract a blessing. It is not proving worthiness or presenting a resume of prayers, fasts, and vows with the hope of being hired by heaven. That is the old world in a robe. That is time, law, and ego rehearsed as piety. Be honest with yourself, and the habit will surrender sooner. How many times did you set goals for your spirituality? A chapter a day, a meditation quota, a charitable pledge, and then, always and then, if I do this, God will do that. You have written contracts in your mind and mailed them to infinity without a return address. You have made an idol of cause and effect, then asked God to serve it. God does not bow to law. Grace is not a wage. There is no time clock in the kingdom to punch in your hours. My kingdom is not of this world, not even of this world's religious bookkeeping. Understand the hidden arrogance of the goal-seeking mind. It presumes that the personal I can arrange spirit, line it up with human intention, and pull the trigger on supply, as if infinity were an employee, as if omniscience needed your outline. You write prayers like letters of instruction. Please handle this in this way, by this date. Do not blush, we have all done it. But let us call it what it is, an attempt to govern God. That is why the soul gets weary, because the I is trying to run a universe it did not make, and then it calls the strain spiritual practice. Now, another delusion must die if you would live. Nobody cares about the drama story you tell to justify your bargaining. Nobody. Nobody. The kingdom is not moved by your complaint, by your explanations of why you deserve a break, by your comparisons to someone else's easier road. Keep quiet and go ahead and struggle if you must, but do not dignify the complaint with metaphysics. There is no use talking about it, because the government of grace does not transact in the currency of pity or pride. It does not compute your merit. It is. You may enter it or wander from it, but you cannot lobby it to change its nature for your sake. Seek is not perfecting your temperament until angels applaud. You can manage your impulses, you can discipline the tongue, you can appear gentle and still be kneeling to time. You can become a model of religious civility and never once taste grace. You are not to wash the outside of the cup and call it sanctified. You are not to paint the hull of a sinking boat and call it salvation. You are not to move the furniture of the mind and call it realization. In this world, improvement has value in its place. In my kingdom, improvement is not the door. A change of consciousness is the door. Let me take away another crutch. Affirmations are not coins for a vending machine deity. They do not manipulate spirit. The physical tongue cannot utter truth into being. The physical ear cannot hear it as a sound. If a word of truth is used at all, it is a pointer, a quieting principle that stills the racing mind long enough for that split second of silence in which truth rushes itself. But the mind wants to make the pointer the path, the statement the cause, the recital the power. That is the old method dressed in syllables. It keeps you busy and congratulated and untransformed. So what is seek in this light? Not striving, not earning, not fixing your life to make room for God. It is the surrender of that whole method. It is laying down the tools you used to build a tower to heaven and letting them fall out of your hands without picking up holy tools to replace them. It is ceasing to arrange outcomes and consenting to be arranged. It is stopping your prayer long enough to let prayer begin in you. It is not attempting to persuade an absent power. It is yielding to a present government. You may say, but must I not try? Not in the old sense of trying. Try in the way a wave tries to be ocean, by not trying at all, by being what it is. Your only honest effort is the refusal to continue the dishonest effort. That is tough work for the ego because the ego confuses motion with devotion. It wants to feel itself exerting, accomplishing, improving. It wants a report card. Grace gives no grades. Grace governs without your help. The more you add your push, the more turbulence you feel. The more you take your hands off the levers, the more the current proves itself. Now then, do you see why the Master spoke so ruthlessly to thought? Take no thought for your life. Not because life is unimportant, but because thought about life in time is the very obstruction. The personal I hires thought to secure tomorrows. That I will be unmasked next, but for now, mark this. Every plan you propose to spirit as leverage is the denial of the kingdom's order. You may still plan a meeting, still catch a train, still cook a meal. Only do not imagine that the plan produces your good. Let the plan be a way grace appears on Tuesday, not a substitute for grace. We must come to love the poverty of this. Hands empty, mind unarmed, heart unbargaining. It will feel in the beginning like doing nothing. The habit will accuse you of negligence. The world will call it passivity. In truth, it is yielding to the only activity that saves, the government of is. You are not responsible for making life turn out. You are responsible for staying in the place where life reveals itself as already turned, already whole, already sufficient. That place is not a time. It is presence. Seeking first is consenting to dwell there without a bribe on your tongue. And this will sting one more time for good measure. Stop explaining your need as if explanation were a pass to the front of the line. There is no line. There is no queue in spirit. The moment you stop telling God your case and start letting God be God, the atmosphere within changes. Not because you earned it, but because you ceased arguing with what is. That is seeking. That is first. That is not of this world. We are through with the old method. If there is any remnant of the bargain-making heart, let it confess itself and fall quiet. Do not replace it with a holier bargain. Replace it with nothing. Out of that nothing, the cessation, the unclenching, the refusal to govern, grace is felt. And when grace is felt, you will know why no striving, no earning, no fixing could ever purchase what is given without price. Now then, we have laid down the bargaining tools. We have dismissed tomorrow from the altar, but the machinery is still humming inside unless we expose its foreman, the personal I, the one that hires thought, hires plans, hires rehearsals, and then calls the strain spiritual responsibility. That I is the obstruction, not your history, not your neighbor, not your bank. The I trying to run life. The proof that it is on the throne is simple and uncompromising. Fear. Do not argue with me about your temperament. Do not psychoanalyze your childhood for a cause. We are not in that room. Fear is not a personality flaw to be fixed in time. Fear is a spiritual indicator. It is the light on your dashboard declaring the personal I has taken the wheel. That is all, and that is enough. Because the instant the I is driving, we are in this world, under its laws, its forecasts, its rewards and punishments. The minute we are in that world, we are out of the kingdom in our awareness. My kingdom is not of this world, not even a religious version of it. When you fear, listen to what you are really saying inside. I must make this happen. I must prevent this from happening. It depends on me, my plan, my speed, my skill. And the soul contracts. The breath shortens. The mind starts counting causes and effects like an accountant after midnight. Law comes in with its ledgers, calculate, control, predict. Gain if you work the formula. Loss if you miss a line item. And as long as law is your government, fear is your supervisor. Because every calculation can fail, every prediction can miss, every control can slip. Grace does not live there. Grace has no ledger. Grace is the isness that governs without strain, supplies without arithmetic, reveals without rehearsal. It does not imagine tomorrow and then engineer a route. It is the route. It is the life. It is the government. Where grace governs, fear has no office because there is nothing for fear to oversee. There is nothing to make happen. There is only that which is happening of itself. As light is its own shining, that is why fear at its root is not about danger. It is about selfhood. It is the confession of a false center that must manage an imagined future. Take away the imagined future and the manager has no job. Take away the manager and grace is recognized as already in office. You say, but I have bills, but I have a body, but I have a child. I do not say deny appearances. I do not say be careless. I say read the fear correctly. The fear is not telling you the bill is big. The fear is telling you you have left the kingdom and are trying to pay with law. The fear is not telling you the body is frail. The fear is telling you the personal I is attempting to heal by effort and prognosis. The fear is not telling you the child is at risk. The fear is telling you you have assumed sole custody of life. Nobody in this room can add 1 cubit to stature by taking thought. Nobody. And yet thought insists it must try. If you take this personally, you will suffer longer than necessary. If you take it impersonally, as principle, you can obey. Fear equals I at the wheel. I at the wheel equals exile from the felt presence of grace. Exile from the felt presence equals law, and law always demands more of you tomorrow than it gave you today. The only remedy is not bravery, not pep talks, not better visualization. The only remedy is displacing the I from the wheel. How? By ceasing to be the driver. That sounds simple to the head and impossible to the habit. Good. Let it offend the habit. The habit must shrink to make room for God. Now then, consider how law moves. It moves by cause and effect. If I do this, then that. If I say this, then that. If I tithe, attend, affirm, volunteer, then supply, health, guidance. Even with beautiful acts, if you hitch them to law, you are still worshiping a machine. Grace moves as life itself. It does not answer to your if. It does not wait for your then. It is the vine, the sap, the fruit. One life. In grace there is no sequence of merit and reward. There is manifestation of isness. In grace, integrity is not a moral struggle. It is the impossibility of theft in a consciousness where only one being is. In grace, supply is not a paycheck debated by figures. It is the sufficiency that keeps no books. In grace, guidance is not a decision tree. It is the fact that spirit lives you. Take the example of the bank teller. Under law, count carefully, fear the audit, hope not to err, dread the manager's glance. Under grace, you cannot give an extra $1 because the consciousness you are living in contains no mine and yours to bargain. Honesty is the state, not the effort. So in your affairs under grace, you cannot be late to your life, cannot miss your right place because the consciousness you are living in does not consult a clock to be itself. The clock may still tick on your wall, but it does not govern you. That is what "not of this world" means in practice. Now, do not imagine that hearing this replaces the inner shift. The physical ear cannot hear truth, and the physical tongue cannot utter it. The room can be full of words, and you can still be afraid. Fear is only resolved where the I dissolves, and the I dissolves not by convincing it, but by ceasing to feed it. How do you feed it? By handing it minutes to manage, by giving it a script to memorize for tomorrow, by assigning it roles: breadwinner, healer, protector, fixer. Take those costumes off it, and it has nothing to act. It retires, at least for a breath. In that breath, spirit shows itself. In that breath, grace is recognized as already in office. In that breath, you are no longer trying to demonstrate. Demonstration is simply the light being light. Do not be sentimental about your fear. Do not be cruel to yourself about it either. Be scientific in spirit. The moment you detect fear, do not argue the content. Do not pick apart the scene, accept the diagnosis, personal I at the wheel. Then obey the prescription, vacate the driver's seat. That is not an activity in time, it is a release in consciousness. It may take only the length of a breath. It may require several returns in a single minute because the habit is hungry. But it is one thing: relinquishment. I can of mine own self do nothing, not as a pious slogan, but as a lived admission. And the admission is freedom, because it invites the only government that saves. You may protest, But if I don't run it, it will fall apart. Has it not already been falling apart under your management? Has fear not been the witness that your rule is a tyranny to your own nerves? My kingdom is not of this world. The kingdom does not need your push. It needs your getting out of the way. The fields do not bloom by your intention. The tide does not keep its appointment because you sent a reminder. Life is life. Presence is presence. Spirit is spirit. Your best offering is to stop interrupting with I. Now then, if the obstruction is the personal sense, what is the mechanism for release? You have already been given a hint, perhaps felt it without naming it. There is a split second in which thought stops, a split second in which the inner arguing ends. In that silence, truth rushes itself, not a statement of truth, not an improved thought, presence. The fear drops because the I that feared is not functioning in that instant. We will take this up with both hands next. How to meet that instant, how to consent to that stopping without force and without technique. For now, it is enough to know that fear is not your enemy. It is your bell. When it rings, do not consult more clocks. Step out of time, return to the government of eyes, and let the added appear as what it always was, the natural byproduct of a life you do not run. Now then, the physical ear can never hear truth any more than the physical tongue can utter it. Do you understand that? If you do not, you will stay at the mercy of words, yours, mine, the world's, and call that religion. Truth is not in syllables. Truth is not in sound. It is discerned. Between the lines, beneath the thought, behind the voice, there is a faculty in you that is not of this world, which knows spirit as its own being, and it wakes only when thought ceases asserting itself. Those who worship must worship in spirit and in truth. They cannot worship in thinking and in talking. My kingdom is not of this world, not even of this world's finest statements about God. Jesus pointed to the mechanism without romanticism. Enter into thy closet. Do you imagine he meant a wardrobe with coats? The closet is within. Shut the door. Do you imagine he meant the hinges? The door is the mind's traffic. Shut it. Pray to thy Father which is in secret. The secret is the silence where no thought is bargaining, no memory is rehearsing, no future is auditioning. There, in secret, in silence, the Father which seeth in secret rewardeth you openly, not by calendar, not by applause, but by government, by grace governing. The signature of it is simple and not dramatic, a split second in which a thought stops and no new thought rushes in to replace it. One instant in which the engine of mental motion idles and you do not touch the throttle. In that gap, no longer than a breath, sometimes less, something unfurnished by you enters. Not a word, not a picture, spirit, not an improved idea, presence. It is not emotional, it is not theatrical, it is recognition. It feels like rightness without argument. It feels like rest without sleep. It feels like a weight taken off that no hand touched. The shoulders let down, the stomach unclenches. The forehead smooths. You have not solved a problem, and yet the problem is not running you. You have not rearranged the outer, and yet the atmosphere is different. That is the kingdom dawning as awareness, not coming to you, revealing itself where you stopped hiding it with thought. You ask, how shall I do this? You shall not do it. That is the first honesty. You cannot produce spirit. You can only desist from producing its substitutes. The old method wants a technique, 10 breaths, a mantra, a formula. Use them only as you would use a tuner before a violin. Quiet the instrument, then set the tool down. One true word may help. Here, Father, I am listening. Be still, then drop even that. Let one thought finish, and do not call the next. The mind will try to rush in with a headline. Kindly say, no. Not harshly, not fearfully, simply no. Refuse the audition. Do not strain to be blank. Strain is another thought. Consent to stillness. If a bird sings outside the window, hear it and do not chase it. If a truck rumbles down the street, let it be thunder and do not follow the storm. The silence we speak of is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of mental management. Do not look for fireworks. If you go hunting sensation, you are back in this world's theater. Most of the time, the spirit's entrance is quiet as dew. The proof of it is not ecstasy. It is authority without effort. You rise from the chair, and the next right act is there without plotting. You answer the phone, and the tone meets the need without rehearsal. You look at the bank book or the body, and there is less argument, more obedience to what is given in the moment. Things that terrified you yesterday look smaller, not because they shrank in inches, but because you stopped inflating them with tomorrow. The added that will be our subject soon begins to appear as natural sequelae. But let that be background. The point here is the mechanism. Stop the mind's motion long enough for grace to be recognized as already in office. Be still and know that I am God. Again, do not hear a poetry reading. Hear the instruction. Be still and know, not think about and conclude, not calculate and deduce. Knowing comes after stillness, because stillness is the only condition under which the personal I relinquishes the bench and lets the judge be judge. When you talk to God about God, you keep the I engaged. When you think about God, you keep the I employed. When you are still, the I has nothing to do, and so for a split second it does nothing. In that nothing, the everything is apprehended by itself. You may object, I try and I fail. The mind rattles like dishes in a cupboard. Of course it does. The habit is old and proud and frightened. Do not fight it. Fighting feeds it. Observe it like waves lapping ashore and keep your feet under you. If a thought insists, let it pass and do not entertain. If it steals you for 3 minutes, do not scold. Return the instant you notice. Notice this law. The moment you return, even for half a breath, there is a difference. It may be so slight that only the tenderest sense inside witnesses it. Good. That is how it begins. We are not building a tower. We are ceasing to build one. We are not climbing a ladder. We are stepping off it. Do not confuse this with trance. Do not confuse this with daydream. Trance dulls. Daydream diffuses. This is alert stillness, most awake at the point of no thought. Like a musician poised at the breath before the phrase. Like a marksman at ease before the release. Like a mother listening in the night, not tense, not asleep, fully present. There is a silence that is drugged, and there is a silence that is luminous. Seek the luminous by refusing to add anything. Your awareness will begin to discriminate. That faculty is already in you. It is of the kingdom. It cannot be taught to the ear. It cannot be handed to the tongue. It can only be awakened by contact with what it is. Where can this happen? Anywhere. On a bus bench, over a sink of dishes, in a hospital corridor, in a boardroom bathroom stall. Nobody grants you a setting. You grant yourself a second. How long does it take? A split second. Longer will come by grace when needed. Short will suffice for now. The rose blooms now. The tide turns now. Life lives now. Do not set a timer to be holy. Set nothing. Attend, return, consent. And when it happens, and it will, the evidence will not be fireworks, but governance. The next email is answered without heat. The dollars arrange themselves into sufficiency without drama. The appointment lands in rightness without chase. Do not run after the evidence. Let it trail behind you because you are walking under a different government. Now then, hear a hard word gently. Do not report your silence to your friends. Do not count your seconds and write them in a book. Do not make a shrine of the chair. That would be to turn the secret into a spectacle and lose it. Keep it hidden in the heart. Let the open reward be the quiet steadiness of your day. Let those who live with you discover you have become less windy and more present. Let them find you difficult to frighten and impossible to rush. That is the signature of the split second multiplied over hours. Do you have ears and do not hear, eyes and do not see? He was not insulting the senses. He was redirecting the trust. Stop trusting the outer apparatus to deliver what only the inner sanctuary grants. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. The world gives through words and arrangements. The kingdom gives through silence and recognition. So when fear rings its bell again, and it will as long as habit begs for work, use the bell as the usher. Let it seat you in the closet. Shut the door. Let the thought finish and refuse the next. Consent to the split second. There, truth reveals itself to itself, and you, out of the way, call it peace. Now then, up to a certain point we are students. We read, we listen, we sit, we practice letting one thought finish and refusing the next. We enter the closet and shut the door 24 times a day, sometimes 200. We suffer the noise of the mind and we do not complain to the world. We come back. Again and again we come back. All of that is legitimate, all of that is good. But it is still studenthood. It is still training the habit to step aside for a split second so that grace may be recognized. Do not mistake this for the life itself. It is the rehearsal room, not the stage. It is the tuning fork, not the music. Then there comes a night or a midday or a dawn. Yes, mark this, it is specific. When something definite happens. It may be 10 o'clock in the morning while you are washing a cup. It may be midnight when the city is thinned out and you are only breath in a chair. It may be 3 a.m. when fear used to find you most alone. At some clock time, in some place no holier than your kitchen, the inner door swings not because you pushed, but because nothing in you is pushing, and you know it. You will say to yourself later, "It was then," not because a trumpet sounded, not because a light dazzled, but because the stance of your soul altered and did not snap back. What is the sign? You relax, not a slouch, not a nap, a relinquishment. Something that has been clenched for years without your knowing it lets go, and there is no hand left to clench it again. Up to that moment you could be quiet and then pick up your strain. After that moment you cannot pick it up even if you try, not in the old way. You can pretend to worry. You cannot truly believe that you are the governor of your outcomes. You cease taking personal responsibility for life. You still sign your name. You still pay your bills. You still answer your children, but you no longer live as if the pulse of the universe depends upon your planning. The government has changed. You feel it. The atmosphere within is under different law. Do not romanticize. Your circumstances may look the same that afternoon as they did the day before. The bank figures may not have shifted a digit. The body may still exhibit yesterday's complaint. The neighbor may still be fussy, but you are no longer kneeling to the scene, not of this world. Do you hear? Not even a sanctified version of this world, with better weather. You have changed worlds, not by going anywhere in distance, but by ceasing to live in time. The nowness that you practiced as a split second becomes the climate instead of the exception. Time still ticks on the wall. It does not tick in your chest. That is the discontinuity. You will notice another evidence. Decisions that drained you are not decisions. They are unfoldments. You find yourself at the next place without debate, as if the feat had wisdom you had forgotten to honor. Speech drops its varnish. You answer the email without heat. You negotiate without purchase on fear. You decline without apology because there is no aggressor inside to appease. You do not try to be good. You cannot be otherwise. Not because you are suppressing an appetite, but because the appetite cannot function where there is no personal I to feed it. Integrity is automatic, as we have said of the bank teller under grace. You cannot hand out an extra dollar because no extra exists in one infinite being. This is the law of is taking your affairs for its own. Now then, let us speak the hard truth that becomes gentle in this light. Up to the moment of transition, the verse, "All these things shall be added unto you," taunts you if you take it as bargain. You read it and turn it into tomorrow's paycheck or next month's diagnosis, altered by faith. After the moment you hear it with the inner ear. Added is not reward. Added is the natural effulgence of what is governing. If a sun shines, warmth is added. If life lives you, supply, guidance, right activity, appear as unquestioned byproducts. You do not run after them because there is nowhere to run in the kingdom. Wherever you stand in presence, the evidence accompanies, not as tidbits for your virtue, but as the way light behaves. Some of you are asking, how will I know the difference between a good day and the transition? You will know because a good day ends with your mood. This does not. A good day is weather. This is climate. A good day depends on outer agreement. This holds its own atmosphere when the world contradicts it. The transition has timestamps. At 2:15 I got up from the chair and I could not take back my life with the old hands. Or at 3 a.m. when fear used to climb into my bed, something else sat at the edge and I recognized it as myself knowing God, or God knowing itself as me. The time is not holy, the fact is holy. A definite change of government took place in your consciousness. You may say, but is there no ebb? There is habit, there is suggestion. The world will still offer you tomorrows to manage. Fear will still knock, but now it finds no landlord. It may rattle the latch and you will smile, perhaps even laugh at yourself, for almost getting up to answer. Then you do what you learned as a student, except now the student is not applying a method to get a result. You return to silence because silence is home. You return to now because now is your only geography. You shut the door because the door shuts itself when you stand where you now stand. The discipline remains, but it is not strain. It is fidelity to the is that has revealed itself as your government. Mark this also. You stop consulting people about what only God can govern. You stop looking around the room for someone to agree with your faith. You stop dragging your needs to altars as if volume could buy attention. You are not arrogant. You are not isolated. You are simply no longer outsourcing your life to opinion, including your own yesterday's opinion. Lead us not into temptation ceases to be a fear of outside snares and becomes the gentle refusal to leave the present government for the fantasy of tomorrow's control. You do not make a show of it. You do your work. You keep your appointments. But inside, you are retired from running the universe. Now then, why is this necessary to say so bluntly? Because some of you have been students long enough to make a profession of seeking. It is time to resign. I do not care how many books you can quote, how many meditations you log, how finely you parse metaphysical terms. None of it is the life. The life is the moment the I that keeps score is displaced and grace takes the chair. There is a humility to this that feels like poverty to the ego. Let it. The poverty of I can of mine own self do nothing is the doorway to the wealth of all these things. And again, not as wage, not as bonus, but as the unavoidable addition of light being light. Do not push for this moment. Pushing belongs to the realm you are leaving. Do not plan it. Planning belongs to time. Do the one thing. Continue consenting to the split second whenever it offers itself quietly, hiddenly, without advertisement. Return, return, return. And then, only this is certain. At some exact minute you did not schedule, the threshold is crossed. No teacher does it to you. No book arranges it. Spirit recognizes itself where you are not interrupting, and from that moment you do not live toward the kingdom. The kingdom lives as you, and the added, already waiting in the wings, walks onto the stage without your cue, because the play is under new direction. Now then, all these things shall be added unto you. You turned the end of the sentence into the beginning of your life and wondered why the door would not open. The added is not the kingdom. The added is not the aim. The added is not the proof. If you make the addition the test, you have already moved back under law and time. My kingdom is not of this world, not even of this world's trophies pinned to the lapel of religion. The kingdom is the government of grace realized now. The things are what the light does when it shines. They are not the light. Understand this with the inner ear. The human scene is effect. God is cause only in the language of your understanding. In reality, God is the isness preceding cause and beyond effect. There is no God in the human scene as seen. Do you see that? Therefore, you cannot find God by adjusting effects or measuring effects. The only way the scene shows forth divinity is when consciousness is no longer of it, not of this world. When the inner government changes, the outer is served. Like a field watered by a river, it does not engineer. To watch the grass grow and say, "There is my proof of God," is childish. The proof is the quiet authority within that requires no weather. The grass is the added. Let us be very plain. The addedness of supply is not God paying wages. It is not heaven responding to your intensity. It is not a reward for correct affirmations. It is the natural behavior of life when you are not running it by tomorrow. Supply appears as sufficiency, timely, appropriate, often simple, precisely in the proportion that the personal I is dismissed from office, not because surrender has purchasing power, but because only without the I does the river find an unobstructed bed. You cannot coerce this. You cannot schedule it. You cannot be dramatic enough to earn it. Give up the theater. Consent to the government. Examples, not to sensationalize, but to steady you. The bill arrives, and the old habit leaps to figures. You return to now. You shut the door. In the quiet, a call comes through, or a forgotten credit is discovered, or a simple rearrangement that neither cheats nor strains becomes obvious. No panic, no bargain, no show. Added. You are offered two paths in your work. The mind wants charts. You return to now. The next email writes itself and reveals which door is alive without a pro and con list. Added. A body complains. The manager in you wants regimes and timetables. You return to now. In the silence, you are led to rest or to a practitioner or to a single act of obedience you could not have invented. An appointment moved, a food set down, a walk taken in peace. The fear does not govern the choice. Added. You are stuck in traffic. Under law, you rage at clocks. Under grace, the clock is on the wall, not in the chest. The atmosphere in the car changes, and in that calm you notice an exit you had not seen, or you arrive late to find the meeting delayed, or you arrive late, and the right person is there who would not have been an hour earlier. Do you see? Not magic, not manipulation, government. Addedness appears where strain has ceased, and if nothing outward adjusts, the interior does, and that is not consolation. That is the government itself. Peace in the midst is not a lesser miracle. It is the miracle that authorizes all others. Let me press the hard point. The addedness does not respond to your intensity. You can pound the floor with your need, and you will exhaust yourself. You can whisper once, "Father, hear and be quiet," and the universe will move as it must. Why? Because you have stopped impersonating the universe. The I that wants a tomorrow to supervise is not present, and so the only presence is present. Then whatever belongs to that presence is disclosed as needed, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, always right. If you are busy timing God, you have left God for time. Return. Return without conditions. The more purely you surrender the method of time, the more naturally the additions appear without your noticing when they began. Do not turn this into a measuring stick. The moment you keep a ledger, this many adds this week, therefore greater realization, you are back at the machine. Law, cause and effect. If I do this, then that. In grace there is no then. In grace there is. The inner government is the proof. The atmosphere is the witness. Your rest is the sign. Even if dollars are not yet counted, if fear has no grip, you have the wealth itself, and the forms will appear as they must, when they must. Even if the decision is not yet outwardly taken, if the strain is gone, the path is already walked in spirit and will meet you at your feet. Let this correct a common superstition. Some of you wait for the added to certify your spirituality. You say, when the job arrives, when the cure is visible, when the house sells, then I shall know. No. You are asking the shadow to validate the sun. You are demanding that fruit prove the tree while denying the sap. My kingdom is not of this world. Therefore, this world's scoreboard cannot grade it. The kingdom proves itself by its own peace, by its own poise, by a governing presence that forbids haste. From that climate, the fruit appears in season. Out of season, you do not shake the branches to force it. That would be theft from tomorrow. There is no tomorrow in the kingdom. But what of lack, you ask? What of delay? Examine what you are calling lack. Most lack is the imagination of a future not yet resourced. Come back, now. Is there air? Is there a way to do the next honest act? Is there light enough for the step at your feet? That is supply. Walk in it and observe how money or opportunity or help meets you at the step that required it, not 3 paces earlier to suit your anxiety. Grace pays on location, not on speculation. And when the answer is wait, that too is addedness. Right activity includes holy inaction. Right guidance sometimes closes a door and locks it behind you, and you will thank God in a month that you were not allowed to force it today. So, what does all these things really mean? It means the inevitable, appropriate manifestation of life when you are not impersonating life. It means guidance that does not consult fear. It means activity that does not flatter ego. It means sufficiency that does not make a god of figures. It means that where you stand in the silence, the world around your feet adjusts without your megaphone. The aim is never the ad. The aim is the kingdom recognized now. The ad trails like a shadow that cannot help itself when you stand in the sun. Keep it hidden. Do not announce your additions. Do not make a testimony circuit out of groceries paid and rents met. Give thanks silently. Let the open reward be the quiet steadiness of your days. Those who live with you will know by the absence of panic, by the disappearance of rush, by the kindness that no longer has effort in it. That is the sermon without words. That is the proof without proof. Now then, we will not wait for tomorrow to practice this. We will not ask yesterday to provide a floor plan. We shall do the one thing, return to now, close the door, refuse the next thought, and let grace govern. And as it governs all these things, exactly those and no more, exactly those and no less, will appear as they must, because the light is being light. Now then, this is practice, not theory, not romance, not a mood. Seeking first is not a someday achievement. It is a now movement repeated until it is no longer a movement, but your resting place. So hear this as a rule, not a suggestion. Give up yesterday, give up tomorrow, return to now. That is the whole discipline. If you will not do that, nothing else I say has any use for you. If you will do that, the rest is added by its own nature. Give up yesterday. That means relinquish all claims you think you have on yourself or others based on what has been. Guilt is a chain to a corpse. Nostalgia is perfume on the same corpse. Both are yesterday worship. I failed. Yes? Nobody cares. There is no healer in the autopsy. Be quiet and return. I was so happy then. Yes, there is no life in the scrapbook. Be quiet and return. Yesterday has no air, no light, no grace. It is a photograph, and you cannot eat a photograph. Destroy it? No. You need not burn albums. You must simply refuse to live there. When the memory rises, let it finish, and do not call the next. Refuse the audition. Consent to the stillness that follows. In that split second, the past has no traveler. Give up tomorrow. This is more difficult because your world calls it responsibility. I am not asking you to throw away the calendar. I am telling you to get the calendar out of your chest. Planning as salvation is idolatry. It makes a god of sequence and strings you along with the illusion that if only you arrange enough boxes, safety will arrive by train. Can you live a minute from now? No. A minute from now is a vacuum with a false face. My kingdom is not of this world, not even of this world's plans, not even of this world's holy schedules. If you are given to make an appointment, make it from the quiet. If you are given to draft a budget, draft it from the quiet. Do the act and return the heart to now. Tomorrow is never the governor. Grace is the governor. Tomorrow will be served by grace when tomorrow is called today. Now, the micro-practice. It is very small, and it must be very frequent. Stop mid-thought, that is all. Let one thought finish and refuse the next. Just there. Do you feel it? The lighter, finer awareness that does not have to think about itself to be. That is the shift from mind to awareness, from the human seen to the kingdom recognized. Do not wait for a chair. Do not postpone for a perfect setting. On the street corner, in the checkout line, over a sink, with a child asking a question. Let the current thought land and do not call the next. Half a breath, a split second. In that gap, the inner door stands open and you are not pushing. Spirit recognizes itself. This must be done many times a day, not long sessions only, not heroics. Little transitions, quick returns. You are typing an email and the tone tightens. Stop at the period. Refuse the next sentence until gravity leaves the chest. Return. You are reading news and the surge begins in the belly. Close the page without commentary and let a second be empty. Return. You are telling your old story to your own head again, and you catch yourself in the middle of the second sentence. Do not scold. Do not finish. Let it go unfinished. Return. 20 times an hour if necessary. 200 if fear is loud. Nobody is counting. Nobody. Only you know when the bell has rung, and the bell always rings now. A word may help like a doorman, but do not let the doorman move into the suite. Here. Be still, Father. Whisper it inside and then drop it. The mind will complain that nothing is happening. The mind wants fireworks. Tell it kindly, no. Not shut up, that's a fight, just no. Refuse its audition. Luminous silence is not dramatic. It is recognized by a rightness without argument, a lightness without reason. Do not search for sensations. The proof is that the next act is given without push. That is the sign you have returned to now. Some of you will report, I tried and I failed by breakfast. Of course you did. Habit is old, pride is loud. There is no use dramatizing it. Do not spread it on bread and make a meal of failure. Return. What if I forget for 3 hours? Then the practice begins when you remember. That is all. Do not add a second of self-accusation, because that second is another thought, and we are refusing the next thought. Be mercifully ruthless. That means tender toward yourself and strict toward time. Give no quarter to yesterday. Give no jurisdiction to tomorrow. Do not make a life out of your lapses. Return. You will discover helpers hidden in plain sight. Every fear is a bell. Every surge of anger is a bell. Every clutch of urgency is a bell. When it rings, do not cover your ears and pretend it is not sounding. Say, ah, the usher. and let it seat you in the inner closet. Shut the door. Let the thought finish and refuse the next. Split second. Grace governs. When you come out of that second, the phone call answers itself more gently. The face in front of you looks more human. The problem stands smaller because you are not feeding it with time. That is not dreaming. That is changing governments in the only place government is, consciousness now. Guard against turning this into a public program. Do not announce, "I am returning to now 10 times a day." Do not keep a ledger on the refrigerator. That would be bringing the calendar back into the chest by the pious door. Keep it hidden. Let the open reward be the absence of panic, the unhurried way you move through rooms, the kindness that no longer has effort in it. Those who live with you will know. You need not preach. Your air will preach. It will seem at first that you are stealing seconds from life. You are not. You are returning seconds to life. These tiny surrenders cut new channels in consciousness. Water finds them and makes them streams. Streams become a riverbed. After a while, without your noticing when it crossed the line, the practice is no longer an act you do. It is the climate you are in. You wake and the thought to plan yourself safe does not rise. You see a face and the impulse to judge cannot find you. You look at a calendar and you do what must be done without bargaining with God. The default government has changed. Grace is now the first habit and thought the exception, not the other way around. Do not suppose this means lethargy. This is the highest alertness. Alert to now. Alert to the only point at which spirit can be recognized. You still keep appointments, but you are not under them. You still maintain order, but you are not serving fear with neatness. You still take precautions where wisdom dictates, but you are not building a refuge out of tomorrow. The world will see you as stable. Inside, you are simply present. This is how we live in this world without being of it. Now then, the rule stands, and it stands without apology. Give up yesterday, give up tomorrow, return to now. If you fail, return. If you forget, return. If you remember in tears, return. If you remember laughing at your old solemnity, return. The door is never locked from the inside. The split second is never rationed. You need not store it. You cannot store it. You can only enter, and entering again and again. The seeking first ceases to be something you do and becomes what grace is doing as you. Then all these things, appropriate and inevitable, will attend to themselves while you attend to the one thing needful. Now. Now then, we do not float off. We do not rattle our dishes less. We do not neglect what is ours to tend. We still pay bills. We still answer phones. We still raise children, mend the hinge, send the email, sit with the one who is ill. But we no longer take orders from the world's fear or its calendar. The clock is on the wall. It is not in the chest. My kingdom is not of this world, not even of this world's alarms and deadlines. The same hands move, the same rooms are crossed, but under a new government. Inside the atmosphere is grace. Inside, haste has been deprived of its chair. This shows itself first as a gentleness that requires no performance. The tongue discovers fewer edges. The eyes do not reach for faults. Prejudice withers because the kingdom reveals a universe that is spiritual, where labels have no weight and lines we drew as children in fear are not even there. Call nothing filthy that God hath made. If you have heard that, really heard with the inner ear, you cannot keep small fences. Sectarianism, denominational pride, the satisfaction of being right against another's wrong. These cannot breathe where is governs. We are not making nice, we are seeing reality. In the kingdom there are no outsiders. We still live among tribes and uniforms and parties. We do not give our heart to any of them. We bless without asking for flags. Do not confuse this with passivity. It is quiet authority. You will find that your presence stills rooms more than your statements ever did. You will notice that quarrels relax around you without your managing adults like children. You will see that the child in your home obeys more readily because you are not transmitting fear disguised as love. You will discover that your coworker stops confiding in panic because your listening does not agree with panic's calendar. None of this is accomplished by technique. It is the overflow of one fact. You are not living from the outside in. The center is within, and it is peace. Yes, you will still be on time, but time is no tyrant. You will still make plans when wisdom whispers, but the future is not your savior. You will still save money if prudence is given, but money is not your God. You will still care for the body, but the body will no longer be a threat demanding worship. Under grace, work becomes right activity, not treadmill. Duty becomes devotion, not martyrdom. Giving becomes obedience to a nudge, not guilt's performance. You will find yourself saying fewer words and accomplishing more. You will find yourself choosing fewer battles and winning without fighting. That is not cleverness. That is the effect of government. There will be days when the world's sorrow stares you in the face. Tragedy on a screen, need at your door, injustice flaunting its costume. Do not pretend it is not there. Do not make a metaphysics that denies appearances. Acknowledge it and refuse to make it your God. Stand in the kingdom. If you are led to act, act with the simplicity of one who is not proving a point. If you are led to give, give cleanly, without the hook of tomorrow's heroic identity. If you are led to be still without apology. In all ways, refuse to be drafted by fear's army. We remain in this world to be blessing by our being, not to be recruited into its passions. Now, a word you may not enjoy, but you need. Do not depend on this room for your good. Do not depend on me. Do not depend on a method as if it were a lever to move God. Nobody here can live for you. Nobody. Your teacher can point to the door. Your friend can walk to the threshold with you. The door opens from the inside in a split second that only your consent can allow. The kingdom is within you, not in your neighbor, not in a building, not in a book. Within you. Practice the transition yourself. Let a thought finish, refuse the next. The moment the silence is, God is witnessed. The moment you try to borrow another's realization, you return to the market of opinions and the din of time. You must be poor in the sense of dependence and rich in the sense of presence. Guard against the formation of a new sect in your name. Do not make badges that say, I seek first. Do not build a club of those who return to now. That, too, would be of this world. Keep your practice hidden. Let the open reward be the ease that spreads in your house, the courtesy that no longer flatters, the decisions that no longer take their cue from dread. If anyone asks, be ready to say, I do not live by tomorrow. That is all. The rest they will read in the way you carry silence through noise. You will still fail by appearances. You will still forget and be lured by the next bright plan or the next dark forecast. Do not stage a tragedy about it. Return. You will still feel the pinch in the chest when the phone rings at the wrong hour. Do not perform courage. Return. You will still be tempted to condemn those who do not see as you see. Do not correct them. Return. The commission is not to run the world. The commission is to refuse the world's jurisdiction over your consciousness, and thereby to be a place where the world is quietly healed of its fever. One meeting at a time, one kitchen at a time, one drive to the store at a time. Now then, seek first, not to get, seek first to be conscious of the kingdom that is already present. Seek first, not as effort, but as surrender. Seek first, not to move God, but to stop impersonating God. Let the room fall away. Let yesterday have no vote. Let tomorrow have no office. Enter the split second and be governed. Out of that governance, pay your bills, answer your phone, hold your child, meet your adversary. Out of that governance, be a quiet blessing, without trumpets, without slogans. Simply by living in this world and not of it, you fulfill your whole calling. Now then, seek first.